right, we'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast for young men. And today we're doing a conflict resolution. And so there's conflict, right? Like there's conflict. And so understanding how to go ahead and resolve conflict is, I'm 59 years old and I still haven't figured it. But it's closer now than it has been before. Let's do a quick review over what causes conflict. And so the analytic, what causes conflict for the analytic is when things aren't done properly in order. So if things are not done well, that creates pain for the analytic, a lot of pain. Now, when I say done right, what I mean is done the way the analytic thinks it should be done. So you never get in a fight, argument with an analytic, because even if they're wrong, they have enough data to make it look like they're right. So when I say if it's not done right, what I mean is it's not done like the analytic wants it done, because they're really smart. And my second, I'm actually, when you test out originally, my primary personality, I'm as strong analytic as I am driver. I've just found in business that, you got to be more of a driver. I found as a dad, a father, and a husband, seems like I've got to be a lot more driver than I am analytic. But anyways, that's the analytic. The driver, what causes pain for the drivers when things are out of control, and the driver can see when things are out of control years or decades before it's ever out of control. They can see into the future. And so they might be in pain 10 years in advance of what the situation is. What causes pain for the expressive when things are boring or not fun? And so they don't like boring. They don't like details. They don't like task that they don't like, so they just, anything they don't like to do, anything that's not fun, they don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I just don't. I don't enjoy it. The amiable, they don't like conflict, so anything that creates conflict, they're going to avoid. And so they're going to avoid that. Now, for 59 years, I thought what I just said was true. Now I'm thinking it's different. What I'm thinking now is I'm thinking that the analytic actually likes when things are out of order. Why? And not done properly. Why? Is because then they can feel entitled, and they can feel self-righteous, and they can go ahead and feel like they're victims. They can feel superior to everybody else. And then they can jump in and they can go ahead and show everybody how everything should be perfect. So they actually enjoy when things are out of order, because that gives them a chance to go ahead and shine. The driver, they, actually like when things are out of control. For 58 years, well, maybe 55 years. So they actually why do they like when things are out of control? Because then then everybody gets to see how amazing they are. Nobody likes the driver until things are out of control, and then they come to the driver to fix things. So, nobody likes them, nobody values them, nobody shows them any recognition until, all hell is broken loose, and now all of a sudden everything's messed up, mucked up, screwed up, there's so much mess, there's so much crap. Sorry, men, there's so much crap all over the wall that it's like, get the driver in, because the driver can clean this stuff up. So they're valued, they're appreciated. I mean, they've been telling everybody this is what's going to happen. Nobody listens to them. And expressive loves when things are boring and not fun. Why? Because then they get to be narcissistic, self-centered, self-absorbed, and they like to be the center of attention. And so they get to go ahead and create a bunch of fun. And so they, everything's running smooth, everything's good, but let's go ahead and throw a wrench into that thing and blow things up. And so, conflict with others, like the amiable loves that. Loves it, absolutely loves conflict. Matter of fact, they create conflict. Why? Because then they can throw the driver under the bus and say it was all the driver's fault. and then they can come in and act innocent. They're the ones that went ahead and mucked the whole thing up. They're the ones that created all the conflict because they never were honest with anybody. And so they created all this conflict, but they don't have to take any ownership of it. They can just go ahead and say, oh, and they're the nice person. They're the nice person. Like they just, like they made everybody happy. It's like a firefighter who's a pyromaniac. They're out there starting fires, and then they go, it's a real thing. Did you know that, Kenny and Luke? There's people out there that actually start fires. They're called pyromaniacs. And so they actually start fires. And then they're the firefighters. So they start a fire, they get the fire going, and then they come in and they're a firefighter and they put out the fire and they're like, look at me, look at me. This is how the amiable is. Seriously. Like the driver's like, really? You're such a goofball. Anyways, so my son-in-law, Jason, and he and I have had challenges over the years. And so what we've done that seems to be actually working is we have a document that we created that either one of us can go in at any time and say, you really irritated me. And so it's a way of us throwing up. It's like getting drunk without getting drunk. Like I read a book, maybe it was Red Team, maybe it was something else. I don't know. I read a book. I think it was Red Team, but I read a book and it talked about Navy SEALs. So these are the elite of the elite in special ops, and they get drunk the night before a big mission. Now, this doesn't make any sense to somebody who hasn't drank. Like, I don't understand. Like, life and death, yours and others, are on the line. Why would you get drunk? Why would you get drunk the night before a big mission? And so what they say is because when you're drunk, you go ahead and can share your feelings more openly. Now, the driver has the unique capability. They don't need to drink. They can do that. You know, they can just do that. And so it releases tension. So it releases tension, you know. So, you know, this is why, you know, if you're married, you know, you're a young man and you're married, this is why, you know, your wife might get upset with you and get angry with you because she just wants great sex, which in marriage is a wonderful thing. It's like, you know, or maybe you get angry and upset with your wife so you can just have great sex. Again, in marriage, it's a great thing for sure. Enjoy that. And so because it's tension, there's tension and then it's released. And so you feel closer together. In real life, you know, in business, it's like, I like to go ahead and have things done properly in order. I like when people are controlling themselves so I don't have to clean up their mess. I like when things are fun and exciting, but for me, fun and exciting, I get it. You know, I get it. It's when things are in order and controlled, like we have a plan, we follow the plan, and everybody comes away happy. A novel concept. Like, and I like when people are in flow, like when there's harmony, like when things are all going together. And so the simple solution is just go ahead and whoever you want. It could be a spouse, it could be a mom or a dad, it could be a business partner, it could be anybody. Just create a document, a text document, say, hey, when you're frustrated with me, go in there and read it. And you can say anything you want. So I can go ahead, like once my son-in-law, Jason, he said that, you know, I'm sure he wouldn't mind me sharing this. He emailed me and he said that he thought I had my head up my ass. This was a great thing to me. This was a major breakthrough to me because I love this guy because I'm a driver. And so I didn't know that those were the rules, that you could actually be honest and use that kind of language. So when he said that, I had a lot of respect for him. This is how drivers function, because he actually said what he thought he was feeling. And what was nice is I thought he had his head up his ass too. And so I wrote a paper on having your head up your ass. Like I use this quite a bit because, you know, my son-in-law. So if you really like this, you know, if you really like that I'm using this kind of language, you can thank my son-in-law, Jason. He's the one that introduced me to the concept that you can actually be that honest with people. And so So you go ahead and have rules. And so, probably don't go in there when you're vulnerable and you want to quit the, a friendship or relationship. That's just stupid. Like, go in there when you're not, whatever, tension and whatever. Go into the document and then let the person know. And then anything you want to say, you can say. Just get it out like you're drunk. Like, I can say anything I want. You can say anything you want. You can share your feelings, but be ready, because Mark Boersma has a lot more feelings and they've been pent up. He didn't even realize his feelings were important for 59 years. So he's got 59 years of experience, or 59 years of feelings pent up, and he can unload them like a drunk sailor. Like, man, he can use language. He can do anything he wants. So just be ready. You want to unload your feelings? I'm totally cool with that. If it's with me, please do. Because, I probably have some feelings I'd like to unload on you too, And so that's another thing. Now, this one here, I don't think it's ever worked, but I'll share it with you. This is for the Jerusalem Peace Project, where we had Palestinian kids, over to our house, and Israeli kids, and the Lakota Indian Reservation kids. You talk about the, the Arab-Israeli conflict. That goes back another story. But this is something else. It's kind of a cool model, but it doesn't seem to ever work. So the first thing you do is, so 4 steps to conflict resolution. First is see, acknowledge the hurt. So the analytic becomes like a sniper. Hurts when things are done. What they do is they don't come. This irritates me to no end. Like how the analytic and amiable deal with conflict, I don't like it. It's behind my back and they're talking to everybody else. And it's like, really? You want to play those games? I'll play those games because I can do the same thing. I can probably do it better than you. Like, be a man up, and tell me you have an issue with me. You talk to my wife and my kids, they're going to get back to me. And let me tell you, I get and hear something from you through my wife or my kids, then I can talk to your mom or your sister or your girlfriend or your wife. I can talk to the world. I can put it on a podcast. I can do anything you want. So if you don't want to talk to me man to man, it's not a problem with me, because you know what? I can go drama, and I got a big voice, and I got a lot of people. So your mom and sister and your kids and anybody's going to see it. So again, you want to go underneath me, you go underneath me, and we'll play at that level. And let me tell you, that'll be a game you'll go ahead and enjoy. I'm just saying, if you think I'm angry, I'm not. It's just, this is my therapy. My Beth Smith, my therapist from England, she's got this cute accent. Everybody mocks her and says she's not real. She said, it's okay for me to do these type of thing. It's a form of therapy. Don't judge me, right? So the next thing is feel the pain. You can't feel the pain. All you can do is feel your own pain, because you're self-centered, self-absorbed, narcissistic. Yes, I'm talking to you, amiable. Yes, I'm talking to you. And I'm talking to you, analytic. And I'm talking to you, expressive. And the drivers are just totally in love. Finally, somebody that actually understands me. So feel the pain. You ask them, why did this hurt? And then give them permission to actually go ahead and share. And don't be a drama king or queen and make it all about yourself. And then once you hear their pain, then seek to not do it again. Like Jason, he went ahead and shared, not in the document, but he shared to me, like, he's analytic, amiable. And so he does, he does stuff with me, for me. I do stuff for him, with him. He doesn't like to do stuff. And then have me ask to do it again. Like if I ask him to do something and he does something, he doesn't want me to come back and ask him again to do it. He wants it one and done. This is fair. Now, is it fair for him and not me? Like, do I have to tell him twice? We haven't gotten to that yet. So, like, is this a, but he did something, he did some research, and I came back and I knew that he was hurt. He was mad. He was ticked. I mean, when he said, he got a little sassy with me, he says, well, I don't have a finance degree. It's fine, get sassy, as long as you're willing to have me be a little sassy back. Want to be sassy with me? Not a problem. I have grandkids. I have 4, 5 granddaughters. Trust me, I know sass. I can sass with the best of them. I was telling Ben, my son, yesterday when we were doing go-karting all day, I'm like, you know, man, I can trash talk like nobody's trash talk. So, it's fine. Like if people want to do stuff, just be ready. There's a lot inside of me. You have no idea what my capability is. So don't be a wuss. I won't use the P word, but don't be a wuss and dish something out if you're not willing to take it back, because I can give it a lot more than I can take it. Trust me. 7 kids, a wife. Man, I know how to take stuff but it's there. And then ask for forgiveness, and don't just say you're sorry. Like sorry to me is meaning I won't do it again. It's not sorry I'm caught. It's not sorry you hurt your feelings. Like you say you're sorry to me. Like if you get me to say I'm sorry to you, which you almost never will, because I actually think about what I'm going to do before I actually do it. Novel concept. And so I apologized to Jason. I mean, after I was a little sassy back, it's like, because I know it hurts him when I do it. And so now it does bug me that it's like, do I have to do it? So he's going to do research and I have to find somebody that has to actually follow through. So it irritates me. So when you're irritated by somebody else, trust me, like, it's like, what are people thinking? Like when somebody else irritates you, you've irritated them. You just have. And so the driver, when things get out of control, they go on the attack. The analytic is a sniper. The driver's just like Hulk, like this. I will Rambo you. I will run over you. And they have this special power that they don't really care like what people think of them. The other 3 personalities do. So I don't know. You can irritate the driver, but I'm just saying, probably not the smartest thing in the world to do. And then the expressive, when things are not, they dramatize it. It's like, it's like, really? Like, it's funny in Indiana Jones, and the guy comes out and there's this ninja guy comes out and he's doing all these swords and he's doing all this fancy stuff, and Indiana Jones looks down, grabs the gun, shoots him. It's like, really? Yeah, especially if you're a guy. As a girl, I'm like, girls, I guess, have drama. Not that guys don't either. More and more guys seem to have drama, but drama, I don't know. I just get tired of it. And then amiables, they're poison. When there's conflict, they're poison. They're poison. It's unbelievable how vicious they are. And so they actually try to poison my wife against me. Really? You think that's going to go well? That is not going to go well. I will kick your ass. Then they try to poison against my kids, against me. Really? You think you're going to get away with that? And the worst thing to do is poison my grandkids. You try to do something like that against grandpa, because grandpa's going to be there when maybe nobody else is going to be there. You poison my grandkids, you're just asking to have your ass kicked. I mean, emotionally, I'm just saying. I'm just absolutely saying. And then don't mess with somebody's got a life vision to touch 8 billion people. Like, he's going to know your mom, your dad, your family members. He's going to know everybody. You can't run. You can't hide. You can't do anything. You just can't. I'm just saying, don't mess with somebody who's got a big vision, because he'll put up with it for a little while. And then he won't. And when he doesn't, I'm telling you, you have no idea as the wrath that'll come down on you. You just don't. So if you're thinking, wow, Mark seems really worked up, I'd say, well, why would you say that? You're yelling and screaming. If my kids were on, they would say, well, Kenny, he can attest to that. He remembers when one of my nephews was over at the house, and he would say, or my kids would say, this is not Mark yelling or screaming. He's not. Trust me, if he was yelling or screaming, you would know it. And you're like, but you're so worked up. So am I not worked up now? Like, wow, like he actually has control of his anger. he's such a nice guy. My kids would say, my dad, you don't have to be worried when you think he's yelling. One, he's not yelling. Trust me, he's not. He might be a little intense, but that's not when he's dangerous. He's just like if his face is getting red and his veins are bulging out of his neck. Like that's not when he's dangerous. Because as a driver, you know exactly where I stand. I'm telling you exactly where they would say, my kids would say, my dad is most dangerous when he's quiet. Because you have no idea what's going through his head. He's going to tell you as a driver, I'm going to just punch you, sock you in the nose. He'll just tell you what's going to happen and you can't stop him, but you know exactly what's coming. But as an amiable, when I slide down into the amiable, that's when he's dangerous because you have no idea. Trust me. He's thinking. He might even be plotting. So hopefully this was a good, on conflict resolution. Hopefully you got to see right? Each one of them, none are better than another, but they all think they're better than other. They all think that they're more self-righteous, they're more this, they're more that, but none are better than another. And so, Kenny, questions on this? Does this help you in any way?
Does, yeah. I wish there was some way I could attribute or bring value to this.
Oh, you've brought value. You've helped contribute to this. So thank you. Luke, anything that you have?
Here, right underneath, it's like an onion.
Yes.
It says bring 2 or 3 leaders, bring it before the whole team. What is the benefit of that?
Yeah, great question. So let's say that I'm angry with you, Luke. And I go
Okay.
ahead and apply this process and you'll get probably angry with me. Why? Because there's conflict and it's layered on top of layer on top of layer like an onion. And so when I go through this process, if I'm angry, upset, hurt by you, and I unload this on you, you're going to be angry and upset and hurt by me because you've built up, you've weaponized without realizing it. You've weaponized hurt from me, things that I've done that I don't even know I've done. And so there's multiple layers. That's why it's so hard. And this is why in business or marriage or family or friends or siblings, this is why it's so hard because it's just layering. And so when you start to go ahead and unpack it, it's absolutely crazy. This actually comes from the best-selling book of all times. My understanding is, I don't know what the specific example is, but it's actually from the Bible. And it's actually where there's a passage in the Bible. If you have an issue with somebody else, go directly to them. Go to the person who hurt you. Do not go to others. So to prevent, like, what a novel concept. Like, how about if we prevent conflict from happening? This is what the driver thinks. But the analytic and the amiable and the expressive, they don't like that. They want conflict. They just absolutely love conflict. They suck at it, honestly. I'm just being honest. Don't judge me, because if you judge me, then I'm going to get all dramatic. And so,
But if the amiable and the analytic like conflict so much, like the steps 1, 2, and 3,
right,
go to the person who hurt you and have the issues with, that would create conflict, I would think.
just short-term conflict.
Got it.
So what it does is it's short-term conflict. And so, why do things get out of control? It's because we stuff things like a volcano. Like with an amiable, I go to an amiable. I'm not saying my wife is like this. I would never say my wife is like this because I adore her 39 years. And you all know, I would never go ahead and talk anything about my wife. But, she's an amiable. And so you can go to an amiable and say, hey, honey, is anything wrong? No, nothing's wrong. Everything's fine. It seems like something's wrong. No, everything's fine. Okay. Like, it seems like you're a little bit, a little bit off. Or maybe I'm off. But did I do something that kind of irritated you? And if I work really, really hard, I'm not saying the amiable goes ahead and draws you and entices you to do something like this, then flips it to where it's all your issue. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, then I finally get, my wife. I mean, I'm just as an example, I get her to go ahead and say, well, you did go ahead and do this. I'm like, now, if I get defensive, I'm teaching her, don't tell me the truth. If I say, wow, honey, I apologize, or I go through and I say, how did that make you feel? And then, do you have any suggestions on how I can not have that happen again to you? So if I have the disciplines to go through these three things, and then I say, I'm sorry, I will work to make sure that never happens again, then likely she's going to go ahead and there's something bigger she's not telling me. So what the amiable does, and a lot of personalities do, is they tell you the little thing to test you to see if there's conflict. To see how you're going to respond. And so then all of a sudden she's like, well, there's this. You're like, holy cow. So an amiable is like a volcano, it builds up, but the amiable is not the only one like that. I mean, maybe the driver, I think the amiable, analytic, and expressive, I think all three of them are like that, but maybe I'm a driver. Maybe I'm more like that than anybody else. Huh. And so there's short term, there's long term, there's when you go in, that's why the flawless execution model is so powerful, because I think there's 26 elements in it, 27 major elements in it. But there's thousands, tens of thousands of others. And so perspective on time. And so the amiable is all about the short term. The expressive is all about living in the moment. And the analytic is about the past, and the driver is about the future. Every one of these four things are important. We should remember the past. To learn from it and have fond memories. We should look into the future and have hope into the future. What were we put on this planet to do? The life vision really is important because it gives us perspective. Is this really that important? And it might be. And then the future, that gives us hope. And then the expressive, living in the moment, like being present right here, right now. Nothing else matters between just right now. And so how do I learn from the past so I don't repeat the stupid things I've done in the past or ignorant things I've done in the past? And then how do I look for the future, and how do I do things today that are disciplined? How do I do that? And that's something I haven't figured out, but I'm working at it more. Luke, anything, or Kenny, Luke or Kenny, anything else either of you guys would have?
Is there an advantage to have conflict? So I was talking to an individual yesterday, and we're talking about a little something about relationships, and they advised me to get into a fight just to see how the fight would go, see how the other person in the relationship would handle the fight.
Yes, that is definitely expressive.
But the strange thing about it is it was not an expressive that gave me that advice.
Yeah, and that would be really interesting to go ahead and was it someone in a relationship with you?
No.
Okay. So that would be interesting to have that person on as a guest on the podcast. Because for an expressive, for anybody to articulate that is pretty amazing, because people don't understand. It's not bad advice.
Okay.
What personality were they?
What?
It's analytic.
Yeah. See, that's just a freaking smart analytic. I mean, that's amazing. But
How is
you better do it right. You better get into the right fight at the right time, because if you don't, man, you're going to get killed or it'll destroy a relationship. So you
Right.
better be smart when you get into the fight. Sorry, go ahead, Luke.
how can that be healthy for a relationship? Because that doesn't create openness or anything like that.
No, it
Does it?
usually does.
A
If
fight?
people can be
Okay.
like, everybody's shocked. Jason's this nice guy. He's an analytic, amiable. He's a nice son-in-law, very respectful. And so him telling his father-in-law that his father-in-law has his head up his ass, that I think was the defining moment in our relationship. Like that was really cool. I'm like, really? Because when he was like that, I'm like, oh, well, if he can do that to me, I can tell him he's got his head up his ass too. So if those are the rules, those are the rules. Like, it's okay. It's totally okay to go ahead and do that. Now, I might take it up a notch and I might go ahead and broadcast it to the whole family or the whole world when when I think he's got his head up his ass. And he probably wouldn't do that to me. I mean, I'd like it if he did. That would be so cool to have him on a podcast when he was ticked at me and I was ticked at him. And so, so it can be really healthy because there's tension and it builds up. And if you don't release it, then it hurts you physically. And so, what's a fair fight? What's
Good fight to come at, like, what's a good approach to a fight?
Well, the first thing is, it was funny. We went to, I don't know, some restaurant where they insult you.
Dick's restaurant.
Dick's. Yep, that's it. Dick's. Ben's like, hey, Dad, you want to go to Dick's? I'm like, sure. He's like, you might not feel comfortable. I'm like, it'll be fine. He's like, no, Dad, they go ahead and insult you. I'm like, it's fine. And he's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, no, it's fine. He's like, well, they're kind of crude with their language. And I'm like, yeah, it's not a problem to me. And we're walking towards it. He's like, now I'm nervous. I'm like, are there any rules, buddy? Like when I went to a Halloween thing, and he's like, Dad, you can't make fun of the cast. Okay. And he's like, and you can't cry or show emotion. Okay. So he gave me these set of rules, and I'm thinking, because I'm an analytic, I'm thinking there's rules to going to the Halloween, whatever they call. And I get there and there are rules, but none of the rules that are on the sign are the rules he gave me. He gave me extra rules, which really impacted me. I'm like, wow, I get extra rules. And so he's like, no, Dad, there's no rules. And so we were there, and the woman like insulted me, and I'm just like, it's okay. And then they drew the little hat, and she made fun of, I guess she thought I was a little older. And so she mocked being a little older and something about sex. And it's just like, it's okay. Like, I just felt bad for her. And then when we left the restaurant, we have the little hat on our head. I kept wearing it outside the restaurant. Like, Ben took his off, I kept wearing it. It was so cool. I walked out the restaurant, and this young, cute couple, cute guy, cute gal, this young couple, and the guy comes up and the girl's like reading it. And it's like, and the guy's like, I can't, that's amazing. You went in there. I would be I wanted to, but I'm afraid I'm going to get angry. And it's like, really? Really? So, learning to discipline. So what are the rules? What are the rules? Like, what language can we use? What situations? How do we bring things up? And so not to go ahead and, yeah. Other questions?
I think so.
Luke, any questions you have?
I think my question on how it's going to help to bring the leaders was never, or I didn't get, maybe I wasn't listening, but I didn't get an answer.
So how do you address this with people, your girlfriend or family members, mom, dad, whatever, brothers, sisters, business partners? Have them watch this podcast. Have them listen to this podcast. You know, so if you share your feelings with me, it's okay. Share your feelings, share them any way you want, but just be ready. I have the ability to share my feelings with you. And it may look like I don't have any feelings, but trust me, I probably have a lot more feelings than you do. And they're probably a lot more intense. And you know what? You've seen on this podcast, it's a wonderful thing when you see it live. It's more, you know, when it's like that guy is so angry, he's going to kill somebody. And then all of a sudden you just say, Mark, it seems like you're angry. Or Mark, it seems like you're out of control. And immediately that will stop everything. And I will go, really? That's interesting. Why? And the tone will change. Why? Because when we're angry, when we're angry, we better be in control, because if we don't, we're going to hurt people. We just will. And so you set up the rules. And so the first thing you do is you go ahead and you have people watch this podcast, and you can warn them. You can say, he uses a little bit of language, in there, give them a rating, say this is R rated, podcast or whatever, like give them a rating. And so, leaders need to go ahead and be developing other people. And so do I feel comfortable and as business partners with you guys to be honest and direct with you? I don't. And that's okay. I mean, some level of honesty. So 1 to 10, I don't know, maybe a 2 or 3. But that may be, in a far higher dimension, than what we're in right now. And so this is good, because I feel more comfortable with you guys than I do other people that I've known maybe my whole life. And so that's good. And so as leaders, you want to, share this video with other people that you're leading and say, what do you think about this? Share it with relationships and say, what do you think about this? And so, understanding the different personalities and how they receive pain. This is why you want to start, you want to join the mobile app, because this thing will help you and help other people. So people misunderstand. Like, I think that the driver personality is the most misunderstood of all 4 personalities. Somebody said, Mark, have you ever thought that you're just being narcissistic, self-centered, self-absorbed, and you think everything revolves around yourself? I just smile and say, yeah, I've thought that. Yeah, it might be true. Does every personality think that? Probably. And in some ways, they are misunderstood. Like everybody thinks the driver's so mean. It's not the case. Yeah, they're direct, and yeah, they'll tell you the truth, but is that really being mean? So everybody thinks they're mean, but they're really not. Everybody thinks they don't care, but they actually do care. But the amiable, they're just as misunderstood. Everybody thinks they're nice, and they're not.
Mhm.
Like the trash talk, man, I can't, this gonna take it to another whole level. Ben's like, that's not trash talk, Dad. Like he knows. Like it's cool. It's fun being around young Amish guys too, man. That'll take your game to another whole level. Going to Dick's too. Like that'll take it to another level. Anything else you guys have on this podcast? All right. So if you don't have an art buddy or an art mentor, you should, as soon as you join Life GPS, you should be assigned an art mentor. That's somebody that develops you. And then sometime you get 2 art buddies. Share this with 2 other people and just say, hey, I mean, it's a great conversation. Like, what do you think? Like, what do you think about conflict, and how should we resolve it? Do we have any unresolved conflict that we don't even know we have, that we do have? Like, it's a great conversation starter, and share this with other people And if I, if I went ahead and offended anybody with my language, I apologize for that. Growing up, we were trained very deeply that we couldn't say gosh or gee or darn or anything like that because they're derivative. So my parents had never heard them. So I don't typically use that kind of language. But if it makes a point, I guess it makes a point. If you have any questions, connect with the individual who invited you to participate in today's session, or you can call toll free 888-230-2300 outside the US 630-393-9909. Always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.